Welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Wellington Shire Council for the Tuesday, the 1st of October 2019. Members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council's meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council's meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate time during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors and councillors' officers ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and if we could stand for the acknowledgement and the prayer. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Apologies, Acting CEO. Councillor...
yes, Councillor McCubbin and CEO David Morecambe.
Thanks very much. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No. Moving on to item A4, confirmation of minutes of previous council meeting.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 17th of September 2019.
It was seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. There's no business arising from the previous meeting, Acting CEO. No late items? No. And no notices of motion. Petitions or joint letters? None of those either, Acting CEO?
No.
Moving on to item A9, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, on the Sunday, the September the 22nd, I had the wonderful chance to declare open and welcome into Wellington Shire the Collywobbles Gippsland Social Club. And it was ironic, it was the day after Collingwood got beaten in the preliminary final. So, but for those of you who don't know what the Collywobbles are, it's people who own collie dogs. It's a social group, and they have now 4 chapters, one on the Gold Coast, one in Shepparton, one Torquay, and now here in Sale. They will be coming to Sale on the allocated date, which is the 4th Sunday of each month. And what they do, they get together as a social group, they take their dog for a walk, and this Sunday they walked around Lake Guthridge and we're absolutely thrilled to see the place. A lot of them had never been to Sale before in their life. And it was a beautiful spring day. It was nice and sunny, and there was about 40 dogs there and nearly as many people. And they were very much full of praise for the way our officers and staff helped them to use the site and locate it without any barriers being put up. And they were very, very impressed with the Stratford Caravan Park, because they need to have somewhere to be able to stay where they've got dogs, and a lot of facilities won't carry dogs. And the Caravan Park people bent over backwards to make sure that those dogs came to a house safely in an appropriate manner. And so right around Victoria, I speak to one lady from Shepparton. They'd come down the day before, and on the Saturday night they'd all had a friendly barbecue at the Caravan Park. So on the 4th Sunday of each month, if you see some collie dogs getting around, you'll know it's the Wellington Shire Collywobbles Gippsland Social Dog Club. So they've given us a presentation of for a certificate of appreciation of what Wellington Shire has done. So Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give They are? Terrific. Thank you very much. I know.
Thanks, Councillor Hall, and I'm glad you did that because, no, I don't want to buy a dog right now, but in fact I had a bearded collie and I would have found this a fairly difficult day to attend, so I'm glad that you could do that for us. Well done.
Just one little
Indeed.
aside. One lady turned up with a little black poodle, so I asked her to get the genetics checked.
Thanks very much for that. That's you done, Councillor Hall. Councillor Crosley, I understand you have something as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the architects FJMT of this building and the builders Melcom, as just over the weekend it was announced that they have, at this building, and we have been selected in the Australian National Architects Awards. So this is a great achievement and a great acknowledgement of the partnership that with our community that has made this building such a great space. This follows on from in July this year we were successful in both being shortlisted and nominated and received 2 Victorian Architect Awards. So we've gone on from the semi-finals onto the finals now, which is terrific. There was a total of 185 eligible architect submissions from all over Australia, and these include domestic, commercial and public architecture builds, and also the final number was 78 in total that have been shortlisted. But in the Public Architecture Award, we are one of 8 selected, so a significant achievement, and my full congratulations to FJMT for their great consultation with the community, and as their client and customer, it was a great privilege to work with them, and we are in good company, and we wait to see, I think in late November, to see the final outcome. But you can go to the Architects Australia Facebook page and their website and get a look at all of the other amazing buildings that we've been selected amongst. So congratulations to them.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley.
I have one more, so if you wanted to make a comment about
I did
that.
actually just
Yes.
mean that the Herald Sun will have now another opportunity not to report the good things that happen in the local government space, and you've got something else.
Yes, and hopefully people come to see this magnificent architectural feature. I'd also like to acknowledge the youth organisers and our youth leaders in the very successful school strike for climate change at Sale on the 20th of September. I was able to attend that. It's actually interesting to note that it was attended by 5% of the population of Sale, and Melbourne's was 3% of the population. So it was certainly very well supported. So I congratulate Lucy, Grace and Anna on their great leadership, and also really their great organisation. It was a very respectful and well-run event, and also the cooperation of the police in making sure that not only the rally but also the march through the up and down Raymond Street was well coordinated, but also really thank the numbers of traders that came out and clapped the people that were doing the march, and particularly the young people that were in the lead. And it was interesting, even the cars that were blocked by the march, they actually were of a respectful car distance back and waved and tooted. So I could say that it was probably more than the 700 people gathered there that were supportive of this great movement, this global movement. And I think we really should not be afraid to embrace the word climate emergency, because if we say it, we can address it and do something about it. So I think it's up to us as adults in leadership roles to follow the leadership of the youth and to go with them for a brighter future that they all want to achieve, and certainly is our responsibility. So I really like to congratulate them and on a job well done. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Crosley. I can see no questions on notice. Do we have any delegates' reports? No delegates' reports. Moving on to item C 2.1, Assembly of Councillors. I think we're back in your hands again. Councillor Crossley.
Thank you. I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 11th September 2019 to the 25th of September 2019.
That was seconded by Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crossley, do you wish to speak to that? Move on to item C 2.2, Audit Committee Minutes, and move to Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that Council receive and note the minutes in brief, attachment 1, and the confidential attachment at item F1.1, Audit and Risk Committee minutes of 6 September 2019 and item 2 as set out in the Council agenda.
A seconder for that motion? Councillor Crossley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, some of the matters that were talked about at the last Audit and Risk Committee, of course, were addressed at the last council meeting where we adopted the financial statement for the last financial year, and also looked at the performance report for the first couple of months. But just to briefly elaborate on some of the issues that were discussed at the Audit Committee. Obviously, I think I referred to the external audit report at the last meeting, but of course, just to recap, we had a very good audit report and an excellent meeting with the external auditor, Mr. Robinson, at the Audit Committee. I think it was pleasing to note that everything was fine, and he was quite happy with all the process and the procedures for the audit for 2018-2019. I forgot to say that I got a new word of the week at the last Audit Committee meeting from the auditor, Mr Mayor, in relation to something to do with Australian Standard 9. My word of the week is disaggregated disclosures. Now, I'm not quite sure what a disaggregated disclosure is, but of course it's a bit above my pay grade. Perhaps someone could sit me down and in words of one syllable explain it to me, but I just love the language of accountants and auditors, Mr Mayor. Just I thought I'd share that one with you. We also discussed at the last Audit Committee the implementation of the Argo Fraud and Risk Report. We have had discussion on that before, and that is all the recommendations from that report are being either have been implemented or will be implemented very soon. The Ombudsman's report in relation to Notting Hill Beach, again, we adopted all the recommendations of that report, as the Council would be well aware, and we are also still, I think we've agreed with most of those recommendations that the Ombudsman made, and there's one that we're still looking at, if I recall, recommendation one in relation to the rating issue. We also received a report from our internal auditor and had discussion with the internal auditor via a telephone link-up at the last audit meeting, and there has been an internal audit report done on local laws, and the internal auditor found that we had good processes and systems in place, and there were, I think, 4 findings that in fact have all, since that report came out, been implemented by our senior officers. So that was another good report. All the other processes were basically the standard reports, all showed that everything was well and good in the audit and risk space. And the only other thing I'd need to mention, Mr Mayor, sadly, it was the last meeting for our outgoing, long-serving Audit and Risk Independent Chairperson, Peter Craighead. So that, of course, I think there will be an announcement soon on his replacement, but Peter has been the Independent Chair for a number of years. I should really know the number of years so I can announce that, but in any event, he has done an excellent job as our Chair, and he'll be missed by the Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Can I just reinforce those last comments? I've had the opportunity to sit on that committee prior to being a councillor as an independent member, and obviously as a councillor and serve on that committee. with Peter Craighead as the chair. He's served Wellington Shire extraordinarily well in that capacity, and his skill, judgment, expertise and humour will be sadly missed, I would think. So again, a vote of thanks to Peter, and I think there will be an opportunity that Peter might be able to come along and present to us the chairman's report, the outgoing chairman's report, and we look forward to that and an ability to thank him once again for the enormous service he's provided to Wellington Shire in that capacity. Moving on to item C3.2, fixed parking infringement penalties. Sorry, I've missed one. Got a bit excited. C3.1 building permit report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report of building permits issued from the 1st of April 2019 to 30th of June 2019.
The seconder for that motion. Councillor Ripper, is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. I was just trying to get to a record for the meeting time. Councillor Marr, which is Councillor Marr.
Looking at attachment 1 in this matter, it outlines the total number of building permits for 3 months to June 2019. Major projects within this time include the clubroom redevelopment at the Bryag Rec Reserve, the Fulham Prison extension, Centrelink alterations at Sale, and the stage 4 of the new medical centre at Yarram. Also, looking through these figures, it certainly highlights the value that outlying areas have to Wellington, particularly Maffra, with $4.79 million worth of permits, Longford $2.26 million, and Stratford at $2.5. Particularly when Sale is their figures are 4.5. Yeah, and I think that when you actually look at the outlying areas and you look at the 4.5 figure for Sale, it just shows you what an incredible support these townships and their populations place on the Sale area. So it's certainly something to consider with regard to the value. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Now moving on to item C3.2, fixed parking infringement penalties. Councillor Hole.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move that Council, pursuant to Section 87 of the Road Safety Act of 1986 and the Road Safety General Regulations of 2019, resolve to apply fixed parking infringement penalties as set out in attachment 4, and in doing so, notes that this represents the same value to the infringement as currently applied.
I have a second to that motion. Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion's carried. Councillor Holt, wish to speak to that item?
Yeah, just quickly, Mr Mayor. The original regulations dealt with penalty points, or part thereof, and nobody knew exactly what a penalty point was. A penalty point was $186, and then the councils had to apply it. Now, this is a state government legislation, it's not a local government legislation, but so many people didn't realise what the monetary value was. So what we're doing here today, infringements, how much they're going to pay, and I'll just grab 2 or 3 of them to so people know that if they stop contrary to a parking sign, it's $83. If they're parked not at an angle of 45 degrees, in a 45-degree parking zone, 83, and they're not parked completely in a parking bay, it's $83. So instead of saying they're up for 0.5% of a point, we're telling them they're up for $83.
Thanks, Councillor Hull. Moving on to item C4.1, Pine Lodge Recreation Reserve Stratford Tennis Court Reconstruction. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report at item F1.2 of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-010 Pine Lodge Recreation Reserve Tennis Court Renewal and I will take paragraph 2 as read.
Second of that motion, Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. This is good news for Stratford, good news for Pine Lodge. With the only tennis courts in Stratford, we're a growing town with young families, and we've a lot of people that are active. We've got a group that plays on a Monday at Pine Lodge. Now, this is very important because these people all get together and it's an outing for them. They're communicating with people from other district towns. Also, we need to upgrade these courts because if we don't have good facilities, you won't get people coming along. As I said earlier on, that we're a growing town. And one of the best things, apart from getting some money, apart from getting the construction underway, is during the initial process, there's some trees. I use that area over there, not for playing tennis. My tennis days are over, sadly, but walking around there, and there are some large trees, which normally, but not always, I'm looking outside at some lovely trees, we might want to do some construction. What's the first thing that goes? The trees. But the trees are not going because we have the members of the club with the consultants have decided that we can work around it. Now, isn't that wonderful? We can actually work around it. Instead of people whinging and saying, oh, they're going to cut the trees. Well, no, they're not going to cut the trees down. There is always a way. So what we're doing is moving the construction for the 4 new courts a little bit further north. We will keep the trees and everyone will be happy. So I'd like to thank everyone for that, and especially the staff who were part of the consultation. Once again, if you talk to Wellington Shire staff, normally they can help you out. So that is an absolutely win-win. And again, please pass on thanks of those staff members who said we can instead of we can't. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper, and I'm pleased to announce that the successful tenderer for this project is Cranes Asphalting and Bitumen Sealing Proprietary Limited. I thought that was creative tennis shots around the trees, Councillor Ripper, for a moment. Item C, 5.1, Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management minutes, and I understand we're in your hands again, Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes from the Maffra Rec Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 5th of August 2019.
Secondly, Councillor Marr, by just that much. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to speak to that one?
Oh, I think I'll move that.
Okay. Moving on. We have no chat room comments, Acting CEO?
No, Mayor.
This is a part of the meeting where the gallery gets an opportunity. So do we have anyone who's, before I go into the preamble? Yes, I will. Gallery comments are an opportunity for members of the public to raise any particular matter they wish. This allows those in the gallery to speak directly to councillors, but it is not a forum designed for open discussion or debate. We will listen respectfully to what you have to say and make the commitment that the Mayor will respond to you in writing within 1 week if required. I just emphasise that if required. I responded to a matter at the last meeting which meant that matter had been finalised and there was no need to issue a written response. A copy of that response, if necessary, then will be recirculated to all councillors. Clearly, this is not a forum for members of the public to lodge complaints against individuals, including councillors and staff, particularly as that individual gets no public right of reply to any matter raised. We take complaints seriously, and in line with the guidance from the Victorian Ombudsman and the Local Government Inspectorate, we request that any specific complaint against an individual be put in writing. This way your concerns can be properly dealt with and whilst ensuring fairness to all parties concerned. If you wish to speak, we remind you this part of the meeting is being recorded and broadcast on our website. Council's official minutes will record that you have spoken to Council and the subject you spoke to Council about, but will not record specific comments. We ask that you state your name in full, where you are from, and you have 3 minutes. So if you would like to address the Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Ron Darcy, Maxima Joblink. Just wanted to touch base on the 3rd of July. I've got notes today. You know when I'm serious if I've got notes.
Okay.
So, but on the 3rd of July 2018, I first addressed this chamber as your new neighbour. I actually rewatched the clip this morning, and I certainly looked a lot more nervous than I do these days when I get up to talk. So that's been one good thing about this job. So we were the new people in town. We were starting up a brand new DES service, and it was really just an introduction. And we've been going since then, and well, guess what? We're going well. I've been really lucky in this job in the last more than 12 months now to have some amazing support. And for many of you, I've worked with you closely. Councillor Hull, working with you with the George Gray guys at the Hayfield Neighbourhood House was wonderful. Had a lot of fun. Councillor Crosley, you opened our first office as Mayor. And also we had that lovely trip up to Dargo for the Bush Nursing Centre. Councillor McCubbin has been absolutely amazing in working with us to make the theatre productions much more accessible by working with us to design and implement tactile touring for people with low vision. And he also provided the PA for our opening. And Councillor Stevens, we've been doing a bit together with the Youth Providers Network and with the WAIG, of course, Councillor Ripper. Which has probably been one of the most valuable things that I've been involved with here in Wellington, and I'd like to take a side note to thank Mr James Griffiths for his involvement with that as well. So one thing that I noticed from my very first moment walking into this chamber is that Councillor Crosley crossed the room and introduced herself and said, "Hello, I'm Carolyn Crosley, I'm the Mayor." And I was like, that's weird, but in a good weird. I'm originally from the Mornington Peninsula. I can tell you no council would cross the street for anything. So, did I say that out loud? Never mind.
Don't worry, people.
Oh, good, wonderful. Bring it on. We've had the pleasure to be really involved in this community, working with mental health groups such as Within Australia, working with the WAIG, with Gibbs Sport, the Marley Street Community Hub, Maffra Neighbourhood House, the Wellington Youth Council, TAFE Gippsland Skills and Jobs Centre. There's so many that we've had the opportunity to work alongside and work hard for the bettering of lives for people with a disability. As I said in that first meeting, sometimes getting a job isn't that person's first need, and that's something that we really did discover. So at that time when you first saw me here, we only had 6 staff. Now, across all of Gippsland, we have 17 full-time staff at Maxima. We are advertising currently for 2 more full-timers, 1 in Sale, 1 in Warragul, and we are advertising for 5 new business administration trainees, all of whom will have a disability. 1 for every site that is full-time manned. This is an achievement that we could not have had without the support of our local council and our local community members. We have made a difference. See, if you go on, as of today, to our Facebook page for Maxima Group Australia, you'll see the story of a young saleman named Corey. And I've actually sought Corey's permission to speak about him today. He's an amazing young man. And when he first walked into our office, what do you want to do? He goes, "Oh, well, I was doing this course about community services, but I don't know if I'm going to keep going." I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Oh, I like it and stuff, but I don't think I can do it." I said, "Well, what makes you think that? Of course you can do it." So we coached with him, we worked with him, and finally we got down to the nitty gritty. I remember there was one day, it was a bit of a warm day, we went and sat on the steps outside Darren Chester's office there. And I said, "Mate, what would having a job mean for you?" And he says, "I'd be proud to become a father." He goes, "My wife wants us to have kids, but I'm not ready because I don't have a job." A job would have been easy. A job would have been ringing up one of the local restaurants and saying, "I've got a new dish boy for you." We're able to do better than that. We worked with Corey. We helped him find his placement. We supported him through his placement and his work experience. We helped him to build a new resume. We bought him new clothes. We got him driving lessons and supported him to get his licence. And now Corey works as a full-time peer support worker for Latrobe Regional Hospital in the Mental Health Division. He started part-time, and after 2 weeks they offered him full-time work. He is an amazing young man. I encourage you, track him down, get to know him. He's a pretty big Wellington fella. So we have made that difference. We continue to grow in our not-for-profit model that places our people first. However, I am moving on. As a few of you know, I've had poor health in the last 6 months, and as of that, I've been forced to talk to Maxima, and they've generously offered me a position close to home. So I will be working full-time at the Morwell office from this moment on, and will no longer be involved in the regional community engagement space. I want to thank you all for what has been an amazing time. You are the most inclusive and accepting council that I've ever come across. The fact that someone can come in and use this microphone without prior notice proves that. Sometimes you get good results, sometimes you get interesting results, but the fact is you're open to listening, and you should be proud of that, and I hope that you never ever lose that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron. Good on you. Moving on. Anyone else who wishes to address council? Thanks again, Ron. Thank you for your contribution to our community. It's really appreciated, and all the very best with your future as well.
Thank you very much.
That's it for that. No need to any need to move into closed session. If not, on that basis, if we've got no need, I'm happy to call the meeting closed at 3:30 exactly.